Hi everyone and welcome to DevCast. This particular episode is in preparation for the release of our salary guide for 2025, and I have the pleasure to be joined by three of my colleagues here at deverellsmith: Andrew deverellsmith himself, Georges Ambigidis and Chris Littrus. I hope you enjoy. Let's get stuck into it. So guys, let's take a deep dive into it. How have salaries changed in each of your sectors across the last 12 months? Would you say it's increased, decreased, stabilised?
It's fairly stable, I think, given the market, quite a bit of volatility, and, sure, we potentially see an uptick further down the line, but in the last 12 months, I think it's been reasonably stable and not much wage increase across the board.
You say across the board, is there any disparities between mid, senior level to junior level?
I actually think there's been potentially a bit of an increase in the mid-level. I see that as our clients are restructuring or have restructured. At times have even had to rip up their entire strategy in terms of their headcount and therefore their staff costs. It's been a subdued market for senior level hiring. As a result, I think there's been a bit more activity in that mid-level and perhaps a little bit of increase there. Most of our clients are looking at running lean teams now and allowing a little bit of flexibility. So, it's been a small increase potentially there, but otherwise, at senior level, I don't think there's been much increase at all.
Georgia, seeing the same?
Yeah, I think it's a really hard question to answer. I think in the main, we've not seen any massive increases. I do, however, feel that we've had less and less people entering the market, which means that mid-level becomes really in demand. And I think where perhaps people are finding the market a little tougher, they're always wanting to hire people with experience. And there are only so many of those, taking into account all the other factors as well, leaving industry, going abroad, et cetera, et cetera. So I agree with Chris. I think that mid-level, you'll see a bit of inflation there for good people that warrant good pay or want to be looked after. The top level, being candid, there's been little opportunity to drive inflation. There's not as much opportunity in the market, which therefore means that it can stagnate.
We've even seen senior level candidates taking salary decreases.
Yeah.
They'll take a view on a salary decrease if it allows them to move into a more active developer in my world, for example, someone who's a little bit more acquisitive and well-funded, and therefore, they take a view and think, no, I'll take a bit of a decrease now, knowing that over the next 2-3 years, I'll get back to the level of income that I expect.
Is that because there's been maybe like an inflated salary increase over the last couple of years and people thinking, well, I've done all right last couple of years?
Yeah, there was a period of good times, right? And there was a period of massive salary inflation. And I think, that curve has flattened massively now. And I think it will continue to be stable. Sure, over the next few years, we'd hope that job market does hot up. And then we're going to see a bit more movement. But, ultimately, I think, it's not just about the salary and the package. It's about the employee value proposition now. Our clients are asking us about all sorts of finer details around the package and around the opportunities. But, I think there are still really good candidates being approached for opportunities and they are getting salary increases, but they're in isolation. There's small pockets of activity around the market, but, the general market, I think, has pretty much been quite flat.
Okay. Andrew, what skills are being commanded right now? And I think that's going to change, and I'll come on to some stats in a minute in the coming years. But are there any particular skills highlighted at the moment?
It's quite a broad question, right? So there's the work that I focus on personally, which tends to be senior level work. So to answer that question, I would say that people are looking for people that can affect change, positive change. So I would say my short answer would be a real focus on leadership and an ability to engineer growth, however that may be, depending on this pocket of the sector. I think more holistically across the whole markets, we're definitely seeing, and why wouldn't we be seeing much more kind of mindset driven towards technology and disruption and efficiencies and all of the good things that technology brings. But I think when markets are soft, and generally they've been soft in the UK across the markets we service, our clients are looking for disruptors, and a mindset to engineer growth and to galvanize teams and to to lead teams into successful periods. So I think the focus has been on looking for evidence or ideas even to enable companies to thrive through pretty stagnant conditions.
Yeah, and I was taking some information from the floor prior doing this, and Georgia, you came up with something that suggested there was probably a big need for commerciality within candidates moving forward.
Yeah, I think two things. I echo what Andrew said. I think, no longer can you go into an interview and say, this is my experience, I've done this here, and I've been here for 2 years, here for 5 years, and here for 4 years. They'll want to know, or our clients want to know, what are you going to be like? What have you actually succeeded doing? What have you achieved, and what can you therefore then do for us? So yeah, I think a bit of advice to people angling it that way will support you in your job search. And I think a big thing a really prominent area I've seen it in is marketing. Obviously very good marketing people are super creative, big ideas, lots of thinking, and creative essentially. And that is brilliant. But at times like this, I've noticed, particularly in the marketing space at a senior level, if you cannot be commercial and demonstrate, I'm going to do all of this and spend all this, but I'm going to give you a return on this, it's been, people have not been getting the senior roles if they can't demonstrate that. So I think, having that commerciality and being able to go, I'm going to add value here, and here, and this is how it's going to benefit you. Yeah. You just have to be able to do that at a senior level.
I've got some stats here behind skill sets. So since 2016, 25% of job skills have changed. And by 2030, we believe a further 65% will change. Data suggesting that the fast-growing and more desirable skill sets between the years of 25 to 30 will be creativity, commerciality, advanced IT and programming skills, research and development, advanced communication, and high-level negotiation. Do we agree with that?
Gonna have to take some courses, aren't I? Bloody hell.
Never me.
I agree with all of that, barring the advanced engineering. What was it? Programming and engineering. I mean, if my social media feed is accurate, which I'm sure it isn't, isn't AI just going to wipe out the programmers? So the other things that you listed there, I think, are people skills, soft skills.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I love the sector that we serve is it is a people industry more than others, I would argue. So, looking to the future, what do I see? I definitely a different landscape, definitely more agility around technology and leveraging the technology that is like rapidly coming through the system. But fundamentally, real estate is, I believe it's a people business, and therefore, getting people on side, engineering deals, getting outcomes, structuring win-win solutions. For me, they're the fundamentals that affect positive outcomes. So I'm excited by what changes to come, but if I was to give younger people in the industry advice, it'd be like, look, learn the industry inside and out. Know what you need to know and really master it. And then be you on top of that. So go and have fun doing what you're doing every day. And guess what? People with smiles on their faces, they tend to get more results than people without them. So, basic human skills. I think if you can master those, you're never going to lose.
Sure.
Well, you might lose once in a while, but fun over the course of time, I'd say.
Yeah, I think I got asked a question the other day, and how, and I think a lot of us get asked it a lot. It's like, how do you think AI is going to impact the industry or what we do? And first of all, I think a lot of people don't even know what AI is. They think it's ChatGPT and that's about it. And second of all, I think we live in, I agree that our industry requires a lot of people skills, and it's unlikely. I think that technology will enhance us as an industry, but it's unlikely to replace a lot of the roles or a lot of the jobs that are within real estate. But I do think, you've got a lot of very good operators who, the real estate industry, it's in the main, I'd say, is quite behind on tech. And I think the businesses that will really supercharge the others are the ones that are embracing it and using it to drive them forward. So not necessarily replacing it, but able to understand it and use it to their advantage.
I saw something again on my. I'm not much of a social media user, but
All of a sudden,
when you say social media,
I started using it for stalking targets in the industry. But I saw something interesting the other day, which is a brokerage business that had set up an AI character who's an agent, right? Works 24/7. So when the humans are sleeping, that's the default kind of engagement channel. And in a month, they'd brokered $100 million of deals, a computer, right? Wow. So what do I think? I think there will be a need for less people, but I think with the right technology platform to feed great people, then I think extraordinary results can come about. So we're seeing it, and it's really exciting. I'm working with a client in the Middle East at the moment, and what he shows me on his mobile phone, because he's a tech guy, not a real estate guy coming into real estate. I've never seen anything like it in my 25 years of talking to real estate people in real estate. So I think the future's super exciting, and I'd say to people that, you know, the younger people going through university or what have you, you know, if you can really get ahead of the industry in terms of, you know, the potential of what we can achieve in real estate, then you've got a great future ahead of you in real estate as well. Yeah,
because let's be real, as much as the salary benchmark maybe has flatlined a little bit, as we say, there's candidates with those particular skill sets that are looking forward, and if you're very good within those particular skill sets, you are going to yield a better salary, right? Okay, let's just go on to something maybe slightly more negative. Put whatever spin on it you want. But Chris, national insurance increases. It's not the most fun topic in the world, but we need to talk about it.
I wish you'd asked me that question.
Well, we can come to
it. No, you're the last person we want to ask.
Sorry to jump in. I think, how do you think it's going to impact recruitment and retention moving forward for businesses?
Yeah. Well, look, it's an additional cost, and it comes off the bottom line. So, it's a problem. And I think, we're yet to see what impact it's going to make across the board, as well as employing and retention. Our developer clients, for example, they're already, facing an uphill struggle in terms of funding and building their projects. Additional staff costs aren't going to help. So yes, it's going to have, I imagine, a negative impact. Will it flatline salaries in a period where we hope, a market uptick would increase them? Possibly. And I also think that, our clients they're thinking about their staff strategies, and, given the volatility of the market in the last couple of years, many of our clients have thought about running a more lean model, and in the most extreme sense, sometimes completely outsourcing disciplines within their business. So I do think we're going to see a bit of a shift towards potentially individual consultants coming in as clients look to grow without massively increasing their cost base, or continue to operate an outsource model as they look to grow the business. Sure, there will be businesses who look to bring things in-house. That's where we come in and assist our clients. But ultimately, I think you're going to get a lesser result for the same input because of this increase. So clients will need to innovate. They will need to reduce their cost base. They will need to increase their revenue. And one of those factors might be reducing their recruitment intake. But I don't think that's in isolation. I think, clients will need to be, our clients will need to be, much more efficient in terms of running their P&Ls and their cash flows. And if a part of that is, reduction of headcount, or, taking one person out of their budgeted headcount, then that might be the case.
Andrew's desperate to jump in.
Well, I'm not sure I should, but I'm going to anyway. Right? Look, I think it's a joke of a decision by a government. In my eyes, it's a lose. The employers lose, the employees lose, and guess what? My belief is the government loses as well, because if both parties have got less money in their pocket to spend, they're going to spend less on just having fun, which I expect means the tax receipts will be down as a result of the change, not up. So there's the negative bit, politics. But the positive, I agree with Chris, which is, organisations are definitely looking at agility, if you want to call it that. And there are always ways where you can, when change is enforced upon you, I think you are forced to have a look at how you function a little bit more closely. When everything's going perfectly well, you tend to just keep doing the same thing. So I think there's loads of opportunities that will come out of it. And I think being more agile in the development world and therefore the third parties like the ecosystem, I think can see a real benefit of adding value to the developers. So it is what it is, right? But do I think it's a good thing? No, I think it's a rubbish thing. Right.
On the retention piece, I've spoken to candidates, we're negotiating offers for candidates all the time, right? And the reasons that they're citing staying in their current roles are to do with stability and safety. And, you've built up loads of goodwill at your current employer. And sometimes it doesn't come down to, a 10% increase in their base salary. But at the same time, there's got to be some sort of movement to justify a move now. The market is not so hostile where, people aren't willing to take a risk to move. And I think, this NI increase is going to affect it in a negative way, to be honest. It's like Andrew said, it's going to affect employees as well as employers.
Yep.
The cost of living increase is a factor, the NI increase is a factor, and that will sway decisions.
Yeah, I think sorry, Georgia, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I agree. I think it's a ridiculous decision, but anyway, it's what it is. But I think, yes, we are forced now to look at different ways of doing things. And also, long gone are the days where you can only, the world is so much more globally connected now. And when you are looking to hire, you no longer, if you're based in central London, you no longer only need to look at talent in central London. And I think that therefore opens up opportunity. And I think people will be if they're not doing it already, they will, they'll be thinking about things so much bigger than just where they're currently based and, what we used to do 10 years ago.
Sure. There's other factors within the estate agency world that are making businesses think about the way that they structure remuneration packages. The Renters Reform Act is one of those examples. Commission structures are going to change for consultants quite dramatically. I actually think that will improve retention rates because they're going to be having a pipeline of commission coming through for the year 2, etc. So, it's typically about pivoting, isn't it? Georgia, how does the world of property benchmark against other industries in terms of salaries, maybe at the junior level? Because I think, we're not really currently attracting great talent into our industry right now. And why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think similar to what I was just saying, I think there's so much more opportunity for young people now. They're not, they don't, and they can see so much more. They have, like historically, it was like, what did your mum do? What did your dad do? And maybe what does your mum's friend do? And that, you can't just sort of banked a decision off of that, or you just landed in it and sort of were like, well, all right, I've landed in this. I'll sort of make this my career.
We all did recruitment.
Yeah. Whereas now, they can go. They're online. They're on YouTube. The younger generation are on YouTube. They're on Instagram. They're on TikTok. They can see what people are doing on the other side of the world. They can see what it's like living in the sunshine. They can see all these things. So they therefore think a lot bigger, I think, than the younger generation did 20, 30 years ago. So we have to remain competitive to attract people. I think the real estate industry as a whole will always be an attractive industry and a great one. But I think we could get better at attracting, onboarding, and also pushing people through careers as well. You need to be able to retain them. Otherwise, they'll just go and look at a different industry or something that's a bit more exciting, that they feel has got better growth, really.
Andrew, your thoughts on?
I think we all passionately love, the real estate industry. But I also don't think the real estate industry does an A-star job of promoting itself, to the younger generation. I'm not saying it's easy. I think where we miss tricks is, my eldest son is 15, he's doing his GCSEs, so now when we're in the car, I'm starting to have a chat, have you got any ideas what you want to do with your life? Like his dad, his answer is no. But, I think giving young people a taste of what you do is a really powerful thing. And it might be that they do a week in a real estate business and think that's definitely not for me. But guess what? They'll pick up some skills, they'll pick up whether it's working in an office or just getting out of bed and going to work. And I think there's a massive, massive opportunity with that. And again, do I think the system, if I can call it that, promotes those types of things? Just fundamentally, it's kind of free labour, right? Buy the young kid a sandwich and you show them a good week and they learn something. and you get a buzz out of that as well. I think there's a real opportunity for us to be doing that, because if you take a grad salary right across our industry in London, I'm pretty certain that it's below law, it's below banking, it's below many of the other professional services industries. So you got to get, I think, the youth kind of hooked and inspired before the sort of they're coming out of university, and then life's expensive. They've got debt and they've got to live, and they've got so money naturally talks. So I think my tip would be kind of try and capture some really smart, young, exciting people before they trot off to university or travel,
and nurture them. Like, I think this is, and I understand it, where it has been really tough over the last couple of years, businesses have just been focusing on, doing the best they can, and arguably maybe don't have enough time to invest in the sort of younger generation coming through. However, that is going to be if we don't do something about it, it's going to become a problem.
Okay, Andrew, I'm going to come back to you for this one, because you've most certainly got the most experience in globally in scaling businesses, helping businesses scale in terms of their people, headcount, and growth. So, what advice would you give businesses that are looking for that hyper growth in the coming years?
Here in the UK,
ideally, yeah, but if you want to take it internationally, you can.
I think the companies that I see are thriving at the minute are the most agile, the clearest on who they are and what they want to become, and the way their ability to kind of communicate that vision to their people, and then empowering their people to run with that vision. I think they're the themes that I see, which is just very very clear mindsets, big ambition, and empowering the people to get on with it. And I don't know if that's a clear answer, but I think that's the winning recipe that I see right now. And you can be small and not do that. You can be large and do that. I think as companies get bigger, inevitably communication becomes more challenging, and there's a danger that they can become less agile and dynamic. But I think they're the things that if you can crack them, you can achieve extraordinary results really quickly.
Chris, your thoughts on?
Yeah, I agree. If your business plan is hard coded into the DNA, and then you don't move away from that, and your strategy is consistent, and you move forward, and you get top talent buying into that and really getting behind it, and driving it and towing that party line consistently to newcomers, then you create this this nucleus of growth. We've seen a lot of businesses pivot their strategies in a reactive way, and sure, they may succeed, but there's going to be a lag there. So it's the innovators, it's the disruptors. Those businesses are really obvious out there in the landscape on social media. You can see who the disruptors are, and they're making waves, and they're naturally going to attract really good talent. Sure, it's an element of marketing and branding, but it's also the quality of the leadership. It's also what that employee value proposition is. That dovetails into salary and package and benefits and flex and all these other things. You have to get all of those things right to continue growing.
Okay. I'm going to come on to challenges. So whoever wants to go first on this, but what challenges are their clients, Chris? What challenges are your clients seeing in the market, especially with salaries and benchmarking against competitors?
Yeah, well, Georgia and I have been fairly deeply involved in this, but in one word, retention. I think clients are looking ahead now. They know what the horizon looks like. It's going to be a period of growth. It has to grow. Yeah. And as a result, businesses are looking inward at their best staff, how to retain them, how to motivate them, how to, just really make sure that they're operating at their best level. So conversations we've been having with a lot of our clients are, fine, we may have some hiring needs, but also we really want to look at our existing staff. So that's succession planning, it's salary benchmarks. And traditionally, the salary benchmarks we would provide are quite simple. What is the salary range? Mm-hmm. Now they're very detailed. They're very granular in terms of the benefits package, the bonus, not just what that bonus is on paper, but what bonuses are being paid out in this market. the benefits package, the pension, the flex, all of these things are, a hot topic right now. And it's probably one of the more common requests we get in this market.
Yeah, everyone wants to know what everyone
We're
else is doing.
seeing that in my world, bonuses getting paid out biannually, which is obviously a huge retention piece because people are going to wait for that piece of money to come in. Georgia, what challenges are you seeing?
With regards to wages,
Specifically, yeah. Or remuneration packages in general.
I think that let's look at it from two perspectives. If you are if you have got working for you a very good, talented individual who who you really want to look after, not just by paying them 10 times more than everybody else is going to pay them, but you've got to, reward them correctly, motivate them, give them a good career path, and you've really got to look after them. I think where it will be difficult for people, everybody's saying the same thing now. You have to work, I think there's been a bit of I think we're all a bit knocked because it's been a tough couple of years, but I also think there are some people that are probably cruising through a little bit. And if you're cruising through but demanding big money, I think you're walking a plank, if I'm being really honest. And I think businesses, is that a horrible thing to say?
No, you're just smiling at me.
And I think businesses will start, I think the NI thing's a bit, the more, all of these little costs that come in and the more that gets eaten away at the bottom line, the more and more people will start looking at the performance of individuals. And if you're not willing to work really hard and perform at a decent level, I think you run the risk of not having a job.
Yeah, I mean, I have to chip in on this one because I think there's a danger that, when things are subdued, we hunker down and we play it safe as business leaders or as organisations. I understand the pressures on P&Ls and cash flow and all of those things, right? But the longer I do this, the more and more I believe that extraordinary people combined achieve extraordinary results. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was sitting with a very high profile real estate developer, and let's just say they're building a project for $1 billion, right? It's actually a lot more than that, but let's just call it $1 billion. I truly believe that an extraordinary team can go and achieve 1.5 billion or 1.1 billion, right? And I think that's the only means in which that happens. So I'm having lots of conversations with shareholders, leaders of businesses to say, look, great people want to be paid on results, but guess what? They typically want to be paid more as a result of delivering the results. So getting into pushing the needle and stretching what is achievable, then the money's there. The money's always there. It's like if we're going to play it safe and deliver unremarkable results, then I think that's a really challenging recipe for companies to super incentivize their people. And I think there's a theme like private capital at the minute, is able to be more agile in decision making and perhaps rip up the rule book a little bit quicker. So my message to senior leaders or employers is to say, look, don't be nervous of setting stretch targets or super bonuses for super outcomes. And that's what will attract great people, and great people I think are the only shot of delivering those amazing the special outcomes. So there is a recipe. I believe it's there to be done. That doesn't make it easy to achieve.
The one thing I also will say is I think we've spoken a lot about the top end of the market, and I agree with what we're saying for that level. For mid to junior level, if you're in London, if we're speaking really candidly, and you are earning 40 grand or 50 grand, like you're not rich, you're not swanning off on holidays every 5 minutes, like you're not super wealthy. Therefore, being offered from if you're on 40 grand and you get offered by a different business 45, it's not that, or even 50, it's not that big of a difference. So therefore businesses have to work out, right, how do we unless we're going to go and pay them 100, which you're probably not, like how do we retain them? And I think we've lost a bit of our fun. I think we've got to, and I get it, we've got to work really hard, but I also think we've got to it's got to be, there's got to be a bit of fun. And you've got to be able to offer, back to what Chris was saying earlier, you've got to be able to demonstrate what else you offer that isn't just the basic salary. Because unless you're earning an absolute fortune in London now, you're not super wealthy.
Talking of benefits and offering something different, hybrid working. Georgia, I'll come to you on this one. What's your thoughts on it, and is it becoming less of a thing now? Or
I think that businesses normally sit in two camps. If we're talking about, depends what you mean by hybrid working. If you're talking about working from home, i.e. I work from home every Tuesday and Thursday, I think there are businesses that have it and that's the way they've decided to move forwards. Sometimes even maybe they're fully remote, and there are businesses that are just not, it's just not a thing. And we're seeing definitely people fall within two camps. Hybrid working, however, I think is here to stay. And by hybrid working, it means that you are where you need to be most efficient. I think long gone are the days that our clients will fly off to Asia for a 3-hour meeting. Like that can be done on Teams now. You don't need to spend the money going abroad for one meeting. Or, if you're, we used to have a sort of visibility of, like, what's the expression? If you're not at your desk, you're not working. And I think that's out the window now. And I think you need, businesses need to be open to that. Like if you work really late one night and you're coming in a little bit later the next morning because you're meeting someone, like totally
it's about
fine.
creating a culture, right?
Yeah.
Where people actually enjoy being at work, and then the hours go out the window. It's kind of like you're just.
And anyone
working.
good works longer hours anyway. So if you've got a problem with people's hours they're working, you've probably got the wrong people.
Andrew,
Look, I mean, it's a massive topic. I think the everyone went flexible in COVID, right? And the vast majority of our clients and ourselves included sort of stayed pretty high up that curve, but the needle stayed quite high. I actually think the needle's trending back. I don't ever think it will go back to 100% presenteeism and 9 till 6, and people don't want to be treated like that.
Yeah.
So I think I think it depends what type of company you are, first and foremost, right? Secondly, I just said something about achieving extraordinary results. I think they're far less likely to happen with an entirely remote workforce, right? If you're designing things, if you're creating things, if you're structuring things, all being huddled around tables and brainstorming, I think is a more efficient way to make that happen than down a screen. So I think it's sort of trending back slightly, but I don't sense pushback from, the workforce, if I can call it that. Life's about balance, and it's I think to get extraordinary results out of people, one needs to trust those people, and they need to trust the people that they're working for. So I'd say pick your lane and stick with it would be my advice to an organisation. I don't particularly care whether it's 100% in or 100% out, but you got to do that with authenticity, and you got to be able to demonstrate why that's the best structure for the business fundamentally. And I think the business should, my worry with lots of remote working is that next generation. How did we all learn? I learned by sitting next to someone who was far better than me and absorbing that for 60 hours a week. Now, if that becomes 20 hours a week, I think my growth curve is slower. Yeah. So it's a really, really tricky one. But trust and respect, I think, is fundamental to anywhere you're going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I've been doing recruitment less than you, but 9 years now. And I think in the early days, if a candidate said, "Is there any hybrid working?" I was, "Are you joking? I'm not asking that."
Yeah.
But now, today, it's not a sign of them not wanting to work hard. It's a sign of them wanting trust and autonomy to do the right job.
I think so much great has come out of being enforced to go flex, because I think the mindsets of virtually all the organisations I see are much more high trust. And we've said in this conversation, it's a people business, right? So yes, absolutely the screens are brilliant for achieving lots of stuff. But call me old-fashioned, the coffee's still better. And so, being on the road, out and about, running around town, sitting down with people, I think for many that's the best part of the job. So I think you can move faster.
Flex isn't just work from home on these days.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Flex is also, a grown-up approach to where someone is, and if someone's not in at a prescribed time, not having to give a reason because there's trust. Flex is a very between the lines conversation nowadays, I think, as opposed to writing it into a contract or, pledging the days that someone's going to be able to work remotely.
There's a lot of businesses who bookend, us included, bookend the offer to work from home on the Monday and Friday. I met a business the other day that bookend must have in the office days. because Monday's pretty important, and Friday we want to know what you're doing. So
I don't know about the want to know what you're doing, but you're closing a week, right? I mean, in
sure.
our business, it's I would argue the most important day of the week. So have we got it right? I don't know.
We have.
But I think Chris nailed it. Like just being in the right places at the right times, and often that's being together.
Yeah, definitely. I mentioned about biannual bonuses. Are there any top end sort of bonus or long term incentives that are really working within companies that your clients own?
It's hard to say which one is working. What we've noticed is a change in how the bonus is paid and changing the KPI to align the right performance and the right attitude and driving the right behaviours in order to attain the bonus. And that's something that's coming out, with the salary benchmark requests and the package requests from our client base. It's, fine, they're getting that bonus, but what they're actually doing for it, and are we driving the right behaviours? So it's very difficult to say this method is working, but I would say that clients are paying much more attention to making sure it's a fair and reasonable outcome for the right performance, as opposed to someone, say, collecting a bonus for not really being hands-on with a certain outcome, or, on the other side, not receiving a bonus for a really great piece of work over the calendar year. And unfortunately, I've actually had a lot of conversations for the latter, which is, I feel like I've added value here, I've driven that, this is the outcome, but I don't think I've been remunerated fairly for it. So, how do you get it right? Be a little bit more bespoke, be a little bit more individual, whether that's individually or for a team as opposed to just a company level. Getting it right is listening to your employees as to what they want and, really what they want to achieve. And that extrapolates down to every part of, your employee value propositions. Just listen to the workforce and make sure you're aligning, good performance to good outcomes.
Deverell Smith's sister business, Hintel, gathered some data in the market, and 69% of employers are concerned about potentially losing staff to lower salaries moving forward in the next couple of years. However, there's always going to be certain disciplines within the real estate world that command higher salaries because we're pivoting across the market. So, Georgia, are there any particular disciplines that you see are going to command a higher salary within the next 12 months?
Good question. I can answer. You said you were just talking then around where people are going to take lower salaries, and I can think of a really obvious one for us. We've got a big team that focus on salespeople, and I think long gone are the days now where you can offer a really low basic, 6 days a week or every Saturday and Sunday and expect people just to be okay with it. I think they would far rather earn 25% less and have more security and less weekend work. We're seeing that all day long. People leaving the industry.
Candidates are putting a price now on autonomy, flex.
Without a doubt, yeah. So that I agree with. Go on.
I mean, just to jump in on this, I think the biggest shift I've seen in the last 5 years, I think we're talking about the brokerage market, whether it's the development sales or a secondary market, as I call it. The biggest shift is going to zero salary, and we've seen a huge shift in that in London over the last, not just London, the UK. There's major global players grabbing huge market share, because reality is whether you're paid 15,000, 20,000 or 25,000, they're kind of all rubbish, right? Once you've been, once you're fully formed, career professional. So I think the original question is, what can companies do, or what can they be looking at? The ecosystem of businesses in every country, the vast majority are SMEs. And guess what? The vast majority of our clients you define as an SME. And they have an ability, I think, to do things that corporations will struggle to certainly execute as quickly as they could. So my advice, I mean, there's a million tools out there. Some are sort of financial and some are less financial. And you can come up with a whole blend. But I think it's back to, you know, results-based remuneration, and being really open and transparent about that. You know, you're twice as good as me. You know, you make the company lots more remuneration. You know, you need to be paid accordingly, Ryan.
I love how you're slowing down saying that before we get into a conversation. Straight after this.
Look, but I love those conversations, and all of us do. I think sat on the sofa. It's like, look, here's a load of options. You know, which one works for you? And some of it's job dependent. You know, some will work, some won't, depending on the function of the role. But I think often clients are quite surprised and welcome, you know, when we list out, you know, the 50 to 100 things they could be thinking about, and they're probably utilising 2 or 3.
Yeah, well, I've got a very wealthy client whose benchmark is to guarantee a salary for the first 6 months, and then it's on the candidate to go to them and say, now my pipeline's up, I want to go on a base and commission, and that is kind of tiered. So the lower your basic, the higher your comms, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle. But it's for you to come to me, right?
100%. I mean, why not?
The brokerage model is an interesting one, Andrew, and we've got some other data here. So the overall talent pool movement from London internationally, there is a big shift, and it's not going to be any shock to anyone, to the UAE. LinkedIn Insights have given us data that 453 people have moved from London real estate market to the UAE in the last 12 months. And, you know, can you just give us a bit of a steer as to why that is? Obviously, you're over there living it.
Yeah, so I made that same move, and why did I do it? Because I believe that whole region is a very exciting place to be, and it's in growth mode, and a big focus of these plans, the 2030 visions, etc. You know, it's real estate or focused, right? So that's why I made the move, and from a personal perspective, I made the move because, you know, I wasn't getting any younger. I've got 3 kids, and I think my wife and I had always wanted to stretch them. You know, whether that's making the leap to move abroad or to you know, to take them outside their comfort zone. So from a personal perspective, that was my biggest driver. Then you factor in lifestyle, weather. And let's be blunt, tax, right? You know, we're taxes have just been put up consistently, you know, quarter by quarter or budget by budget at the minute, and that's very uncomfortable for an awful lot of people. So I think it's a really, now that I'm there, I sort of get it more, and I think it's a very attractive talent. It's a talent magnet, and I think we here in the UK have to think very, very hard about that, and how we secure bright, young, ambitious, and not so young maybe minds that are making that move. You know, it's a great stat, but I could well imagine it's considerably higher than that. And it's not just the UK, right? We're seeing many European countries, you know, flood to that part of the world. So I don't know if I answered your question. Why are they doing it? Because they're in a hurry, I think is the answer. You get one life, and, you know, there's a lot of attractions.
I think businesses in the UK are trying to, especially on the frontline fee earning side of things, they're trying to cater for the masses as opposed to focusing and hyper focusing on the really high talented performers within the business. And I think personally, the growth in the AI and the tech and all the rest of it is gonna wash out the lower crowd, and it's gonna leave this nucleus of really good individuals that will then blend naturally into the brokerage model, because they, as you said, they don't care about the 20k basic salary. They're not doing it for that.
Yeah. I think that's it. Now, you know, just on the Dubai and brokerage, right? It's kind of it's the most mind-blowing market I've seen. I've seen a lot. I've seen, you know, many of the US markets. Clearly, I'd like to think I understand London. Many of the European markets, the Asian markets. You know, what is the case? You know, I'm seeing it is that young people, whether they have agency experience or not, are moving there, are making multiples of what our industry makes here. Multiples. And so we've got to ask ourselves, why is that? And I think fundamentally, you know, the mechanisms that we've structured for ourselves, you know, 1% fees and things like that, you know, that has an impact over the long term. And I think It's another attraction factor over there. You know, I met a real estate broker last year, an individual who made $14 million last year.
Tax-free.
Tax-free.
Not bad.
I mean, yeah, we should probably just leave that there, but and that's extreme and that's bonkers. But I would say the mean average of a 2-year-old real estate, 2 years worth of experience real estate broker in Dubai versus the UK.
Yeah.
And
5
I think
to 10x.
And I think out of those 453, 183 of those were senior hires, right? But we go back to the junior people coming into this industry in the UK. Like if you're early 20s, mid 20s, and you've had a year's experience here, like go for it, go and give it a go, right? Why wouldn't you? But we've got to give them reason to stay, you know. And yeah, it's really interesting.
I think it's coming. I think the brokerage shift is a really, really good thing. Broadly speak, there's all kinds of different models, but the starting point is 50-50. And again, I know many of the people that have moved into that space, particularly in London, and they have been able to 2, 3, 4, 5x their income. And I don't see that as a bad thing because they dedicate more time to generating the outcomes for their clients, and they make more as a result of it. And I think the 1%, sort of the fee erosion, kind of forced that outcome.
Guys, closing question. How do we foresee salaries moving in the next 12 months? Chris?
I think they'll move forward, even if marginally. I'd probably say that because we've seen an uptick in the jobs market. Candidates who, frankly, have struggled to get a job, or someone who's out of work in the last 12 months. People are working now. We're not seeing as many people out of a job, at least as much. So clearly that means there's, it will be less of a buyer's market, and that will naturally drive wage inflation. And the war on talent, which I don't think is going to exist in the next 6-12 months, but will eventually come. It's a cyclical market, isn't it? Andrew, you've worked in many cycles. I've worked in one or two. And it swings and roundabouts. So, we've definitely seen the bottom of the market, the entire jobs market, as well as real estate. So, I think there will be inflation, and, it will be a positive thing for the market. People have been suffocated in terms of progression because they're working at businesses who aren't active or aren't acquisitive. People need to do deals. And if you look at the investor appetite, we're seeing green shoots of activity now in the living sector. Residential market is still a little bit laboured, but there's huge opportunity for international investment coming into the UK still. The UK is still seen as a safe space to invest, and UK assets are strong assets still, if you're thinking long income. So, eventually we will start to see drip feeding activity in the market. And, we've been quite busy recruiting for cost management, asset management, development management still, even though if someone asked me if the market was hot, I'd say probably not.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think there will be an increase.
Georgia?
I don't think we'll see in the next year that much of a difference. I think there will be pockets, as we've discussed, but I don't think we'll see anything drastic. Don't think we'll see a massive decrease either, to be fair.
No. Andrew?
Yeah, I don't see any change, particularly if it's 1 or 2%. What difference does that make? It doesn't change anyone's life. So I think I think compensation could increase significantly, right? So, the bonus is being paid, the commission's being paid, the LTIPs, being structured.
Yeah.
I think that's really exciting. I agree. I think the future over the medium term looks pretty bright. And, the companies that structure, the most inspiring incentives will attract the best people. And guess what? In my opinion, they're more likely to get the best outcomes. So, yeah, I think salaries are one thing, pay packets are a completely different thing, and I'm much more hopeful on the latter for this year.
Yeah, we talk salaries a lot, but also there's more tax efficient ways to remunerate your staff. Pension, share options.
Incentivize your superstars, basically.
incentivize everyone, right? I mean, but unfortunately, only a percentage of the entire workforce of the world is a superstar, and I think there's means to really engage those people, and you can run smaller teams and get better outcomes.
Guys, I've really enjoyed it. Hope you have as well. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ryan.
You were brilliant. Thank you so much.
Well done, Rye.